Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Dread Knight by Andrew D. Meredith. This is book 4 of the Kallattian Saga, or volume 4 as it says. And yeah, let's get into this. So this is epic fantasy, high fantasy, religious, political. There's a lot of the themes that go along with high fantasy are included in this. And yeah, I've reviewed the previous three books in the series, as well as I believe I've reviewed the novella as well, the Fleeting Word novella. So, Dread Knight, as I just mentioned, is the fourth book in the Kallattian Saga by Andrew D. Meredith. This is, in many ways, an ending point for the series. Meredith has stated that he writes this series in blocks of two. So the first two books are blocks, and then the second two books are a block, but then also block 1 and block 2 are an arc, are a block of their own type thing. So this is kind of wrapping up storylines from the previous book, book 3, as well as all 4 of the books up to this point. And that is really exactly what this book feels like in a lot of ways. Not an end to the series, but an ending, or a break for the moment. This is going to be an 8-book series, I believe, and so we're basically halfway through the series, and this is kind of the close of this first portion of the series. There's a lot of similarities in that way with the Stormlight Archive. Before I get into my review, though, I just quickly like to say thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. I'm T. If you're liking what you're seeing from us, please like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, so this book does once again follow many of the same characters as the previous 3 books, though they're all now in pretty drastically different areas of their lives than they were than where they started out in book 1, especially due to the events of the previous book. And all the previous books, obviously. And as usual, each of the characters has their own individual storylines, things that they're dealing with within the larger story of the Kallattian Saga. The things set in motion in book 3, especially in regards to like the Revenants, are absolutely at play here, and are threatening to sweep over all of Kallattai and bring darkness and destruction. And that's kind of what we're expecting. It's an epic fantasy series. That's kind of what happens in them. So that's kind of, it's good to see that that's coming to the forefront a little bit, and we're still playing with that piece of the storyline, especially since it really just started in the previous book. That's kind of the big storyline, but each character's storyline is just as important. In the past books, I found that Genid was the character that I really attached to the most, and found his story the most interesting to me. It resonated the most with me. Book 3 started to change that, and it put Kotium at the beginning, or at the forefront of the story. But then this one did it once again, and this, to me, it really became like Hanan's book, and instead of Genid or Kotium or one of the other characters. This really felt like Hanan's book. His story has always been there and important. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't, but it wasn't the one that I was ever most interested in. That was Genid, like I mentioned, and then Kotium in the last book. But he's slowly been growing and changing over the past few books, and is finally set in kind of this perfect position to finally make the decision that will define him as a character. He has discovered something that will change the world, and now he has to decide what to do with it. And with that whole decision, that whole thing that's going on with Hanan, we get some kind of insane metaphysics and world building reveals for the world of Kallattai. But it also, this book feels a lot like a crucible for Hanan, and causes us to question where he will end up at the end of the story. One of the more underrated storylines from this series is that of Soraya. And her story really didn't start off until last book, in my opinion. Obviously she was there, she existed and had things to do, but there was the specific moments in book 3, I believe it was book 3, it might have been book 2, but I believe it's book 3, that really catapult her story into the forefront of importance and how it's affecting things. And her story really didn't start until last book, but with that, it threw her head first into the deep end, and it's been fascinating to see that story continue here in Dread Knight, book 4, volume 4. It's one of the hardest storylines to read in a lot of ways, and you can really feel her struggle, but it's so compelling to me at the same time. Her storyline of not being in control of her fate, essentially, is almost what it comes down to. And that's the way that Meredith deals with that storyline is fascinating to me. Very, very compelling is the word I used here, and I agree with that. Of course, there's still plenty of storylines to continue on into the second arc. There's lots of things that have wrapped up. There's lots of things that have closed a little bit, but there's also plenty that will continue on into the second arc, characters that will be returning, etc. I'm very interested to see how Meredith brings it back and continues these stories. I know it's going to become bigger and more expansive with a greater supernatural influence. That's pretty obvious because all the books up to this point have had a lot of supernatural elements. And when I say supernatural elements, I'm talking about how they're built into this world, not supernatural elements that we would see in our world necessarily. And that's really interesting to me. The whole everything that Meredith is doing with these books I find fascinating. Overall, I'm very pleased with the series. I will say that the first two books were more impactful to me than the second two have been, but I think that it was kind of for me like a reading them at the right time, or reading them right when I needed them type books with those two. And I still greatly enjoy books 3 and 4, but those first two just really resonated with me in a way that the second two books haven't done. But that's not the story's fault. That's just me as a person, what I was needing at the time. Fantastic books, easily one of my favorite series at the moment, and I'm very excited for more. But I feel like this book did a great job at wrapping things up enough for me to not be in a constant state of anticipation. I have no doubt that anticipation will return once we get to the next book. Once book 5 is on the cusp of coming out and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to read it, and then I read it and I'm like, okay, now I need all the books again. I'm sure that will happen. But as of the close of book 4 here, I'm kind of in a place where I can relax a little bit, and I feel like Meredith has brought us to like a recess where we can take a break, take a step back, breathe a little bit, and wait for him to complete the next books in the series, stuff like that. And so I do have more books by him to read. I've got his Needle and Leaf series. The first 2 books are out in that, I believe. So I need to read both of those. But Kallattian Saga here has been one of my favorite series that I've read since I've been on BookTube. And I'm going to say it's better than Stormlight. Meredith has done a better job at telling an epic fantasy series that feels amazing, incredible, epic the entire time. So yeah, that is my review of Dread Knight, Book 4, Volume 4 of the Kallattian Saga by Andrew D. Meredith. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and we have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.